for any Addo from Mama Crab ever daily update TV so then daily can have channel so make sure so better tap and subscribe button so nothing so tap on the notification bell on the send also bit my can all the new update to channel so more who cause on Ghanaian politics man. Next time so should be a black video so well like it. Now I share there. Na so wa dwen trivia edit video ho a wo comment section e beje ne akenkan e wo ho enso so ediawa. Some yam no de kase eye after the President John Dramani Mahama ebe deliver a State of the Nation address ema ye hu sisi a economy ne baby a eye na dankwa for edi ja Ghana for e ka susuru a about Ghana for na obedi da eye o deliver da State of the Nation address na NPP for MPs no or Masha say a press conference criticize John Dramani Mahama no more shifty blaming man or say I dear Roma exchange rate ekostro dear obo busia kesi dudu omo man all these kinds of blend wa bra they are forgetting say omum ana bo busia kesi egu Ghana for ho na wo bo busia kesi si egu ho no o expect say new president na Ghana for October yin oba onye den an wetimi abu omai no se bosia na no bebo no so timi dia ye ne nioma no so betimi abo Ghana for ya sitina mu na no ana Kwesi Pratt echire mu se de NPP for yen so shocking se mo ba be fa Ghana konya efi John Dramani Mahama se na dollar say 3 cedis anso so ne dollar dey 16 cedis to 1 cedi. Mo ana mo ba fa kenke from 50 pesos and so ne kenke bako mo free so 5 cedis. Mo ba na John Dramani Mahama so vidum so. Aso still na motimi aboka twitwiri de ato ECG. Na saa miam no de Kwesi Pratt echire ma so shocking say NPP for that so have the gut say omba criticize John Dramani Mahama. Ti answer me nkuti senya osikasa inse wensu so efa.
You are talking about exchange rate stability today? Shocking. Why? You took over at a time when the dollar rate was 3.4 to 1. 3.4 cedis to $1. Today the rate is 16 cedis to $1. And you're telling us about exchange rate stability. As if words don't mean anything. Exchange rate stability from 3.4 to $1 to 16 to $1, and we are talking about exchange rate stability. It's just completely baffling. Look, we've come to the point where, according to Mr. Kenoforiata before he exited office, we needed 128% of total national revenue for 3 line items: debt servicing, debt repayment, and public sector emoluments. That's a bankrupt state. So where is the resurgence in the economy? This is the state of the economy, and this state of the economy can only be referred to as bankrupt. You understand? Now, my brother here, the Honorable MP, has spoken about the cocoa industry. Today, as we sit here, check. Most of our state enterprises are heavily indebted. Heavily indebted. Most of the state enterprises. So heavily indebted. In one instance, if all of its assets were sold, it could still not pay for the debt. Is this the health of the economy that we should be proud of, and so on? I don't understand what is happening. You mentioned Galamsey much earlier. Look at the devastation that Galamsey has caused. Unbelievable devastation. Some blame Galamsey for the decline in cocoa production, which is around 60%. Okay? But beyond that, look at the medical reports that we are getting. The children who are being born without limbs, children who are being born blind, and so on, as a result of pollution by Galamsey. You handled this economy for 8 long years and ended up with this level of devastation. We can't even get water to drink now. In the Western region, many water plants have been shut down because there's nothing that the water authorities can do in order to continue to provide drinkable, potable water for the population. This is the state of the nation that you left. You understand? The state of the nation which you left had a power sector indebtedness of $2.5 billion. And the argument that they put up is that, oh, when we came, the debt level was still 2.5, and we are living at 2.5. That's your achievement. And that if we had not stayed in power for 8 years, the debt level would have exceeded 2.5. What a thing to say. You understand? And then, surprisingly, today, the current government, which is less than 2 months in office, is being blamed for doomsor. Incredible. I can't believe it. You remember that before the government came into power, we were experiencing these same power outages. I want any Ghanaian to tell me that before this government came into power, we were not experiencing power outages. We were definitely experiencing power outages. In fact, the independent power producers were threatening to shut their plants and so on. Is this the economy we should be proud about? What is this? And of course, when the new government came, you had Mr. Abu.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's called Dr. Amor.
And he made a very interesting point. That look, of all the loans and grants we are getting from the IMF and so on, that quantity of money we are getting is not even sufficient to pay for the power sector subsidy. Yeah. It's not sufficient to pay for the power sector subsidy alone. So we have to rethink the economy and stop this grand, standing and these press conferences which mean absolutely nothing. You understand? Listen, Ghana today is the largest producer of gold in Africa. The largest producer of gold in Africa. Ghana today is the 5th largest producer of gold in the world. What have we got to show for it? What have we got to show for it? You understand? Botswana took a very sensible step. Botswana's main export was diamonds. And like us, they were not benefiting substantially from the export of diamonds and so on. So what did they do? The government decided to set up a diamond marketing mechanism within Botswana. So Botswana's diamonds were not traded outside Botswana. That gave the Botswana economy a big lift within a very short time. What happens to our gold? What happens to the gold that we mine? Incredible. You understand? Now, until recently, until about a year ago, 2 years ago, Niger was rated as the 3rd worst economy in the world, not in Africa, in the world. 3rd worst economy in the world. In less than 2 years, Niger now has gained the status of the fastest growing economy in the world. Look at what is happening in Burkina Faso. Look at the extent to which their GDP has grown. Their GDP has grown by more than $2 billion per annum. You understand? And then our leaders are sitting here in ECOWAS and so on, complaining about what is happening in those countries and threatening to go and to overthrow those countries when those countries are doing much better than us under their current dispensation. I think it's time for us to wake up. You understand? For me, clearly, the prescription for national economic development and so on clearly is quite old. The healthy prescription for national economic development is quite old. And I like to go back to 1945 at the 5th Congress of the Pan-African Congress. They laid out a blueprint for our development, clear. Key points: attain national independence, which is have national sovereignty and protect it. Have control, ownership and control of your natural resources and exploit these national resources for the benefit of the working people of Africa. Clear formula. That formula is still there. That formula is still the only way forward for Africa and its people. It can't change. In this country, we've had glorious moments. There were moments where we were not importing all the rubbish that we now import. Now we import so much that even drinking water, if you go to the supermarket, you find drinking water which is imported.
Yeah, true.
If you go to the supermarket, you find toothpick which is imported. If you go to a supermarket or even on the street, you find imported handkerchiefs. What does it take to produce handkerchiefs and so on? So under Akroma, there was this import substitution program which led to the establishment of more than 600 state enterprises producing virtually everything that we need. Handkerchiefs, car glasses, deep freezers and refrigerators, television sets, and so on. We're producing all of those items here. Since the coup of 1966, all of these 600 state enterprises have been destroyed, completely destroyed, except 2. Out of 600, only 2 are still surviving. We need to go back to the original blueprint. You understand? If you read the 7-year development program of the Diṣgṛacèful regime, the Akroma regime, and so on, it appreciated that, look, at a certain stage in our development, we're going to need to jack up power production. And that is why, in addition to the Akosomo Dam and so on, they also had what they call the mini hydro projects, where all the rivers in this country were to be dammed and used for irrigation and the generation of power. That program has not been implemented up to today. You understand? In addition to that, the Akroma government clearly knew that we would have at some point to have nuclear generation of power. And that is why by February 1966, they had already entered into an agreement with the Soviet Union to produce nuclear power. That agreement was thrown over the board, after the coup. Today, we are going back to negotiate for nuclear generation of power. Doesn't make sense. If you go into the area of agriculture, currently the experts tell us that post-harvest losses, especially for the grains, is about 30%. One of the remedies is radiation. The plant which Akroma brought into this country to help the nuclear scientists and so on, protect our agricultural produce and so on, was sold to the U.S. after the coup. We packed it and sent it to the U.S. after the coup and so on. So let's stop this gimmicks, this State of the Nation address and real State of the Nation address and those press conferences which tell us absolutely nothing, and focus on the fundamental causes of our problem and address them. You understand? We should focus on the fundamental problems and address them. Right now, this true State of the Nation address, one of the things which was done was to criticize the incoming administration for borrowing in their words, I think 60 billion cedis. 67 billion cedis. In their words. Master, if you leave office at a time when you can't pay public sector emoluments, by your own admission, at a time when debt servicing had been suspended and so on, at a time when the power sector is virtually on its knees because of overbearing debt and so on, how do you expect the new administration to continue?
In fact,
how do you expect the new administration to continue? Master, we should stop this.
Atiefoɔ ne abusuafo na kyese ɛyɛ papa Kesi Pratt ana mote ne nka o kyerɛ mu sɛ ɛyɛ ade a so shocking say still na after saying President John Dramani Mahama did via the State of the Nation address and Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo ni state economy ni state ankasa wodi gya Ghana fo no wa be kyerɛ mu ama ye hu ne na twie man ankasa kyerɛ Ghana fo no still na NPP MPs no ɛda so ehnya the courage Addo press conference esa criticize aban no 2 months old government nkofo wetimi nya courage enya the gut etimi sorry na masa press conference no ma criticizing no ma shifty blame egu papa yi so wa bro mu refi omo so omo mum ana asay o minus omo ba o ma say bibia wo mining at the end of 8 years no sectors bebre are bankrupt o miner mu ye bankrupt ye cocoa sector chese bibia no ho a chese omo ja sika o ma say o mining bibia di o mining mu sika nyina na such o maya amaye ni say no mo expect say president for na waba no onye day aso Ṣcánního we enwene sa nneoma ni nyina ho say timi nya akokoduro esa akoye press conference ekoso camera si so na omatimi a criticize government na wote so no ane hu bibisa why your mind say basa instead of you people to focus in helping say yeah we dey adjust to be any say o mind say so ebebo mama yetimi a recover your losses no enya sa no mu yo. The only thing they want to do is to shift blame on the new government na Ghana for to obey to criticize him. Wa bra wo chem say sa nneoma ni nyina ehu hia fa Ghana Kwesi hwe cause mo na mbetimi abo Ghana for nka mo mefa dokunu enko enfri 50% o John Dramani Łahamès na mo sa amfa dokunu kro na enko 5 cedis so abra mo firi aban mo befa dollar say 3 cedis and dollar ejina 16 cedis galamsey asay o mining nsuo ne yensa se eno ka ho bi ana koko na so ye koko sem nyina abafo sa nneoma ni nyina these people are not thinking about it and the mess a omode o mine akom nim the only thing na mo person mo ya ne say yen shift blame enfangu John Dramani Łahamès so chese ono na fata ne ma boni bia na omun president na obet na mine o ban no so na o stay o mine no de on the omo for the papa entale no mi wo no mum no wadi boni akesi hankasa so no de o ma shift na Kwesi baby no ma shase na mo ye press conference akesi at the criticize a 2 months old government na obet na so what say how now mo de Ghana for ko wura mu ono be solve it no we Ghana for efim se na be Ghana for enso so benya ho because no na Ghana for share so edit to balance because we nim say John Dramani Łahamès wo ye bi pen inti how na NPP aban na danko for the do makoshe no wetimi asa be yom film se na be o mo so ma system ebe ye kama aso nkofo we de enya no mo dwene ho kwala because se o mo dwene Ghana fo hunti ana ma sha se press conference akase no impa se o mu ja Ghana government and say Ghana economy in a bankrupt state no nya no mo dwene cause for mo ba kwako so mo nya mo hu say tam na ordinary Ghanaians ne de omo sofa nkasa aso nya no ana NPP for dwene ho dance on be criticize John Dramani Łahamès na Kwesi Pratt him say they shouldn't be doing that and esaya nwa pass these people they don't have any shame and so umtiminya gatna esa be criticize 2 months old government adinti na Ṣcánního we yesa nti ani woni fere ba kokora eni o manu say my your mind atitin asen pansam se musetiminya akokodu ebe criticize 2 months old government how na mo bisa into chirema nneoma na NPP MPs o parliament house on di omunya ikwa na emfa kwem krakos omunim pa say how ni nyina mo na ya hyase o mo criticize how ni nyina ato papa no ho se na be papa no ba be so be to omunya isasa na Kwesi Pratt kat NPP MPs na mo te parliament na omo ye nneoma ensem fata no tifo bi se onya subscribe ya mesho so beta fin subscribe atem no so ede na fin so tap on the notification bell se na be onso sabiti maka all the new update ya to channel so mo ne ko so ngane politics if you see also the end my crown so